Tonight on the Kenyan week that was, Kenya says support SMEs, but its finance bill reads like a death sentence. They tax you for selling, audit you for surviving, and fine you for daring to dream. From the cyber cafes to the butchery side hustles, we investigate why do Kenyan SMEs die younger than gospel musician careers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Kenya. I'm DY, your go-to tax therapist and an official KRA trauma counselor. Tonight, we dive deep into Kenyan economic mystery. How can a country claim to love SMEs and yet kill them faster than a Kenya Kwanza manifesto? You see, Kenya doesn't hate its small businesses. No, far from that. It just wants them taxed, tracked, and tendered out of existence. Let me explain. If SMEs were children, Kenya would be the deadbeat parent, only showing up at the prize-giving day to claim the credit, then disappear when the rent is due. So buckle up. We've got receipts, we've got jokes, we've got a finance bill that deserves a parental advisory sticker. Yeah. There's some good in the finance bill 2025-2026. For instance, at the beginning, the turnover tax has still been kept at 1.5%. So Fuchs, we can sigh in relief because there's no hike. The bill refrains from raising core taxes on SMEs, avoiding any increase in the tax burden on micro enterprises. But in all honesty, that's like your landlord telling you, good news guy, I'm not going to double your rent this month. Nothing too much to take home. Secondly, the digital asset tax has been reduced from 3% to 1.5%, just to align it with the turnover tax rate. Treasury officials also noted that many digital entrepreneurs are small businesses, so a uniform low rate eases the burden on the digital entrepreneurs and encourages compliance. So tangazo. If you made any money trading Bitcoin or any other form of cryptocurrency in Nairobi, first of all, congratulations, you're one in a few. And secondly, head for the hills because they are coming for you. Thirdly, there is the issue of the capital deduction. You know, that one-time expense write-off. So to spur growth and simplify compliance, the bill introduces a 100% capital deduction for the everyday business assets. Therefore, the SMEs will now be allowed to deduct the cost of small tools, implements, and equipment in the year of purchase. So you see that empty fridge you bought for your cyber cafe? Yeah, that one that has one Dasani bottle of water and one Red Bull that is never going to be bought. Yeah, you can now finally deduct it immediately. But if you bought hope for your business, sorry, that's not a deductible. Also, there is a cash flow promise. Finally, pending bills to SMEs will be paid. This government owes over 229 billion in pending bills. I say 229 billion. That's a number. No, and that number is not just about the money per se. It represents all the SMEs that have invested their livelihood in a government, either by providing a service or providing some form of work, but have never been paid. They've borrowed, they've taken loans, they've done everything, they're yet to be paid. Paying it may actually save so many businesses from the eventual collapse. But like any good deal with the devil, this probably will also come with a caveat from Treasury. Budget permitting. So don't hold your breath. And now that you've smiled, let's wipe that off and get down to business. This is the point where we now interrogate the bill to find what's not so good in matters SME in this proposed bill. Or to start us off, there's a turnover tax regime, which will require filing every month. So small business owners must now file taxes monthly, even if they made zero sales, because KRA assumes your only downtime is when you're going to be dead. And secondly, imagine there's no startup grace period. as this bill stops short of granting several relief measures that SME stakeholders have been lobbying for the past God-given years, that will allow you to be able to have, break even in your first few years, or even try raise enough capital to continue. Your first year in business, you get a tax. First week, we'll still tax you. If you sell mandazi today, be ready to declare it tomorrow. Thirdly, limited tax regime threshold. The scope of the simplified tax regime remains very narrow, adding extra pressure to the growing SMEs. Hence, once you cross over the 25 million shilling mark in turnover, boom. Welcome to complex VAT, corporate income tax, and an unending compliance seminar. This bill lacks new financial incentives, and losses this time round must expire in 5 years. Because beyond tax measures, the bill offers little indirect financial support for SMEs, such as grants, credit guarantees, or subsidized financing. The government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda has other programs, the ones that they really politicize, like the Hustler Fund for microloans, but in the finance bill itself, there are no new subsidies, no incentive schemes, nothing mentioned that is going to, just support or leverage the SME from wherever he is. And if that's not hard enough, if you're still losing money after 5 years, guess what? The law assumes you're either money laundering or just bad vibes. Now, brace yourself, because now we get to the ugly. The part of the bill that looks at the small businesses and says, you had a good run. For instance, there's the VAT reclassification horror. At the heart of the Finance Bill 2025-2026 is a sweeping overhaul of the VAT regime that could hit certain SME-heavy sectors very, very hard. The bill reclassifies many goods from zero-rated or eligible for VAT refunds to VAT exempt. An analyst warned that these VAT revisions, aimed at reducing the government's large refund payouts, could significantly raise costs across multiple sectors and at the end, undermine the very competitiveness that is required for business to thrive. So in short, previously, inputs for farming, health, or solar panels, all were zero-rated and refunds were allowed. And now, VAT exempt equals no refunds, just a whole bucket of sadness. For example, a feed mill that imports raw soy now pays tax but can't reclaim it. So farmers get higher prices as Sugoi's kienyeji chicken gets skinnier while their prices continue to balloon. Secondly, there's a VAT refunds being delayed to up to 180 days. So, ironically, while businesses are pressed to claim VAT refunds faster, the bill allows the government more time to pay the refunds. So if all that I said sounded like a chemistry class late in the afternoon, government says, please file faster. But they now take up to 6 months to refund your money. My guy, that's not policy. That's a hostage takeover. Thirdly, the bill proposes agency notices before court ruling. The finance bill arms the taxman with stronger tools that could severely impact SMEs, particularly in times for disputes. In plain terms, if an SME is appealing a tax assessment, KRA would no longer wait for the case to be resolved before taking action. And for small businesses with limited cash flow, an aggressive collection on the contested tax bill could actually become fatal. Just imagine the zeal exuded by other government enforcement agencies, queuing, Kanjo, being applied to you at your car wines and spirits business in Tasia. You appeal a tax decision, KRA doesn't wait. They freeze your account, auction your car, and text your ex. Why? Because justice delayed is tax collected. And now let's dig deeper and look at the surveillance capitalism for SMEs. Let's talk about KRA's new powers. They can now demand access to your POS system, business data, and confidential records. Because nothing says support like snooping on your invoice folder, imagine. This is not only unprecedented, it also raises serious privacy and competitive concerns. Imagine proprietary data ranging from your customer list, your pricing formulas, and etc. could be exposed, posing serious data protection and security risk. And this is despite Kenya having a Data Protection Act and an intellectual property law that protects against the very thing that this government is trying to do. Meanwhile, you know that digital loan provider from abroad? Now they face excise tax. So if you're relying on the likes of Tala and Branch to fund your next side hustle, please, better pray your chama comes through this time. We used to joke about government taxing air. Now, they're taxing your M-Pesa float, your crypto wallet, and your thoughts, imagine. Kenya has a gift. It creates laws that sound beautiful in theory, but brutal in execution. We say support SMEs while legislating them into bankruptcy. We promise bottom up, then drag every biashara into bureaucratic maze they can't even afford to escape. You want to grow? You pay more taxes. You shrink? Still get taxed. You die? Sadly, KRA asks your spouse to file returns. This is not support. This is sabotage disguised as structure. Or here is what we need. SME unions with teeth. MPs who've actually run a bloody kiosk. A finance bill written with the intentions to grow business and not just count it. Support your local SMEs, because if the finance bill has its way, they might not be around for the next episode. Good night, Kenya. I'm DY, your unpaid business consultant, part-time accountant, and full-time survivor of SME trauma. And always remember, may your permits be current, your receipts legible, and your bribes small enough to hide under petty cash.